Good evening and welcome to another Tech Talks event with myself, Joel Kaplan, talking all things tech. So far, we've spoken about 3D design and printing, the age of artificial intelligence and how kids have got digital identities. And we've had a lot of fun with these different conversations, so super excited. I know we're actually only starting at 8 p.m. when everyone gets their notifications. Tonight, I've opted to start slightly early just to double check that we are getting everyone through. So just making sure that everything is happening and is live. If you guys are there on the call, please drop a comment, or if you're on this live session, just drop a comment just saying you can see me and everything's 100%. Would really appreciate the affirmation. Often you feel like you're talking to yourself in these kind of sessions. So tonight we've got a super interesting topic. We are inviting a special guest on with a motor vehicle company talking all things electric vehicles. So very excited to invite that special guest on very soon. Firstly, I thought it would be appropriate to just introduce myself and the context of why Raylan Preparatory, being Colleen Miller and Paul Roberts, has invited me to do these talks. When I was a kid at the age of 9, I had a Scottish engineer who I used to go to every day after school. I used to bunk school to be able to go and spend time with him. And he actually owned a Jaguar, which is a little hint to who's going to be on the call tonight. And it was one of the most fascinating vehicles that I'd come across. It was what I would refer to as a gentleman's vehicle. He was an old Scottish man. He drank whiskey. He wore a kilt. And he was an engineer who drove a Jaguar. So I've had a passion for Jaguar for quite some time. And working with Mr. Barry, he gave me the ability to be able to work practically with my hands. And it's his essentially inspiration that has subsequently resulted in the birth of Thought Africa, the company that I founded just 2 years ago, where we install tech labs for schools, do amazing courses, and fundamentally just give kids the opportunity to do what they want to do instead of what is dictated to them. So we've been having a lot of fun, myself and Matt, if you've been following our journey, just spreading some DIY challenges, thinking challenges, coding, 3D design, some sustainable living. And at the end of the day, our aim is to be able to connect thinkers with thought leaders. So super exciting to be having a thought leader in the electric vehicle industry talk to us tonight. The reason I brought up Mr. Barry and him as an engineer is one of the main projects that we worked on was an electric scooter. That was a mobility scooter. It was all-terrain. It had 6 wheels. It had 4 12-volt batteries in series on the skateboard, which is the platform someone would sit on with their chair. And this helped invalid people to be able to navigate around. So I've been familiar with electric technology for quite some time and really had such a passion for it when I was taught about it at such a young age, from about 9 years old to about 14 years old, working with the tech. And I remember Mr. Barry used to talk to me about electric vehicles and explain that I think some of the earliest known things around electric vehicles was a milk truck or milk delivery truck had was electrically powered. And I assume this was because it was quiet in the mornings when it had to go around delivering the milk. In research on this topic tonight around electric vehicles, I opted to go and understand the history and the timeline of electric vehicles and exactly what's happened in society to be able to know why it doesn't actually exist right now. So as early as 1890, the first electrical vehicle debuted in the US. They had their heydays, and unfortunately in 1910 they were totally crushed by the launch of the Ford Model T. Quite interestingly enough, Ford released an electric Mustang not so long ago. So they've kind of changed their tune 100 odd years later. And there was just this dead silence in electric vehicles between 1920 and about 1970. So 50 years, absolutely nothing going on with electric vehicles. And then it started to make its way up. And then in 2006, our fellow exported South African Elon Musk founded or took part in Tesla, where they partnered with Panasonic for batteries. They partnered with Lotus for a chassis of their vehicle. They had the likes of George Clooney placing orders for their first Roadster, and it really just brought electric vehicles back to life. Tesla from 2006 to 2020 has just grown as a company. I mean, if you go look at their stocks at the moment, they're skyrocketing and they have their dips, but they're fundamentally doing quite a good job, if you ask me. So it's interesting just to see that the technology is coming back, and we're seeing the major car companies and brands like Mercedes, Audi, Jaguar, VW, Toyota, all taking part in this new era and the future of transportation. And then more recently, someone on Instagram that we follow, John Sinai, quoted a guy named John Huberman, who's a neuroscientist, and he has a podcast. And they were talking about how there is this new sense of exhaustion at the moment. This may not seem relevant, but John was saying that there's three things that that humans need. The first thing is to understand what the duration of something is going to be. So how long is it going to take? And obviously with this global change taking place, where John has said 2030 has actually arrived 10 years earlier, things are changing drastically, and our mode of transport also needs to change drastically. And the second thing we need as humans is to understand what's going to be happening on that path of change. And then thirdly is to understand the outcome. So what's the end game? And this really ties in with the transportation industry, electric vehicles, and the conversation tonight. So I'm actually not going to waste any more time to invite Januko Gainhauser from Jaguar Land Rover. He's a product specialist. He's been working in the automotive industry for 14 years now. And not only has he agreed to speak tonight on such short notice, he dropped me a WhatsApp just before this call saying that they've got a hamper to give away. And in order to win that hamper, so it's a whole bunch of Jaguar merchandise, including, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a t-shirt, a travel mug, and a couple of other things they said they could fit in the box. We are going to give that away to whoever can tell us how many power charging stations Jaguar has installed. So if you're not aware, Jaguar has taken huge initiative to be able to create these charging stations around the country. So you don't just have to own a Jaguar to be able to use this charging station. This travels all the way along the N1, if I'm not mistaken, between Joburg and Durban, and then also all the way up north, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're going to get it all from Januko right away. Without further ado, thank you so much for joining us this evening. How are you keeping?
How's it, Joel? Thanks for having us. Doing well. Keeping it at home.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So obviously, you've spent quite a lot of time in that study. Have you managed to do any of these kind of live calls at all where you are sharing your knowledge, your specialized knowledge in this field?
So most of the day we actually use different video calling, Zoom, Teams to kind of talk to the rest of the team, talk to outside agencies, just doing our everyday task now. But yeah, video calling is a new way of doing our business.
So yeah, we came to the point, myself, and I see we've got Matt Schiff here, he's our director of chaos. We opted more recently that we have our meetings on live calls. We figured we would kill two birds with one stone, give an audience a little bit of some value, and then also just be able to have our meetings on these live calls. So this is perfect for us. So we actually set out a little bit of an agenda. I don't normally do this, but I thought it'd be appropriate just to really cover this topic of electric vehicles. It's quite foreign to a lot of people. They're not exactly familiar with how it's actually a really accessible vehicle in today's age, with all the different brands seem to be coming out with something. But before we get into that, can you tell me a little bit about the history of electric vehicles from what you understand? I know I mentioned something a bit briefly there, but yeah, how is it that it's not the norm today? It seemed that electric vehicles seem to be doing well at one stage for about 20 odd years.
So there's a number of things that kind of impacted on electrification. So as you mentioned, it's not that electrification started a few years ago. It goes back to early 1900s, where there was different forms of electrification. I think what really brought it to the fore in the last few decades were, city congestion, pollution in cities, rising CO2 levels, the need to be less reliant on fossil fuels. Also, like the theme of your show, it's all about technology. Battery technology has come huge leaps and strides in the last few decades. So that all culminates into a new product offering that now really facilitates bringing out electric vehicles.
For sure. So you mentioned the technology. Is it more the batteries that have basically upgraded? I mean, if you look at the tech, in my mind, it would have seemed to be, why was that energy not invested at the time? I mean, we understand that Model T, the first vehicle that was on the production line, obviously has crushed the option of electric vehicles existing, in around 1910. Is there any, I know there's a lot of conspiracies as to why it's not the norm at the moment, but do you agree with the conspiracies around how they talk about oil companies suppressing electric vehicle technology to obviously promote their product being, oil that burns?
I think you could very quickly get lost in a rabbit hole if you start Googling those kind of conspiracies. But I really think it's, over time, it's just something that's developed. Internal combustion engines have evolved at quite a steady rate over the last few decades. So not a lot of new technology has gone into it. Yes, it's become more efficient. Smaller capacity engines was kind of the first signs of improvement in fuel economy, better efficiency. So you don't need a big V6, V8 to get the performance today that you had to get a few years ago. But yes, it's the development, especially in battery technology, that's really driven electrification.
Just wanting to mention to everyone that is tuned in a little bit late, we are giving away, or Jaguar, should I say, is giving away an awesome hamper with a bunch of merchandise, a travel mug. If you can guess how many power stations they've installed, you don't actually have to guess. If you go look at my LinkedIn profile, it says I'm great at Googling things. So go and Google it. Maybe you get that answer right. Go and put in the answer in the comments, tag a friend, see if they can find it. It would be cool if you guys can get it as well. And then just talking Jaguar for a second, we've obviously seen Jaguar launch the I-Pace, and all the other car companies follow suit after Tesla, launched in 2006, and then more and more companies started following the bandwagon. Is that got anything to do with Tesla taking away all of their, well, not all of their patents, but some of their patents and making their technology open source? Has that in any way aided the process for companies to be able to develop?
So yes, it's true. Tesla has made a lot of their patents over open source. I think the biggest driver probably is actually legislation in different countries. So you would see there's a lot of countries that's moving towards zero internal combustion engines, anywhere from 2025, 2035, and then up to 2050. So it is not a trend. It's inevitable that vehicles will have to become electric or have alternative sources of fuel that is not the traditional internal combustion. So yeah, I think it's a combination about the interest that is being generated in electric vehicles. I must admit, in the past, the original electric vehicles weren't very exciting. They were little city runabouts, and and the whole intention was for that car just to live in the city. The moment the range became less of a constraint, it became much more of a mainstream offering. Combine that with congestion charges like in the UK, where you can't get certain vehicles into the inner city. This is a great way of using plug-in hybrid and electric vehicles to still have the vehicle that you like, the size of vehicle. You don't have to drive a little mini car just to drive electric. You can drive a plug-in Range Rover, a plug-in Range Rover Sport, and any other products together with I-Pace. That's great on performance.
And if we just try and address just some more what I would refer to as some of my silly questions around the vehicle. The silliest question of them all: does the vehicle have an engine?
No, it doesn't. It does not have an engine. So the basic structure of an electric vehicle, it consists of a battery pack and a motor. In the I-Pace, the battery pack is designed as what they call a skateboard. So the battery pack is very low in the vehicle design. So that really helps with weight distribution. Now, there's a good example. So there you can see the skateboard, the wheels on each end and the battery pack in the middle. So the battery pack really helps with weight distribution and lowering the center of gravity. Then on each of those axes, you can see there's a motor in the middle. So there's no engine in front. There's no drivetrain running through the back. So those two motors on an I-PACE is 147 kilowatt motors. So those two motors generate 294 kilowatts of power. So to answer your question, no, there's no engine in these cars.
Okay, amazing. And the range. I mean, like, this seems to be a big concern for people. They say, like, oh, you're just going to run out of, energy or juice. What does the range look like on a Jaguar I-PACE? And is it a concern that people should have that they're going to run out of, energy to drive themselves around?
So the range on an I-PACE is 470 kilometers. So I don't know a lot of people that on an average day drive 470 kilometers every single day. So if you think about your average commute, the average commute in South Africa is anywhere between 20 to about 60 kilometers a day. That's now combining, school run, going to work, stopping off at the shops afterwards. So comfortably, you could get away with a car that just does 60 kilometers a day. So 470 is actually quite significant range that you can use every day.
Okay, so we saw another question just coming through here from Barry. Just by the way, Barry, we don't think of any questions as stupid questions. Can you charge the car at home? How does that work? Did you just plug it into the socket? What's the story there?
It's actually so there's a multiple of ways that you can charge. The three main ways is the most simplest way is to plug it into your 3-point plug at home. So yes, you can plug it in at home without any installations. However, the cable that goes into the vehicle and the infrastructure, because the house is not set up for large appliances, it will take the longest, but it will be the cheapest way of charging. The second way is a home box, so a home charger. So you install it into your mains. It's actually wired into your DB board. It's still limited to most probably AC power, so it runs in your house, but that's slightly faster. Sure. Then the quickest way of charging is a public charging. Public charging normally goes into kind of the main, so you can go up to the biggest chargers we actually installed in South Africa. That is, it's between 60 and 80 kilowatt chargers. So that's the most rapid of charging, but it's probably the most expensive. But yes, in short, you can definitely charge it at home. That's the easiest way of doing it.
Okay, and if someone had to walk into a Jaguar dealership and purchase the vehicle, do you guys give them that additional supercharger, for want of a better word? Is it?
We don't give them a supercharger, but a home charger is worked into the deal. So yes, that includes the installation of the vehicle, the installation of the charging unit.
So we have a question here. I see that we've obviously in Cape Town, I know that our electricity here is a little bit more expensive in some areas. We're getting a question here, a very, very good one, is how would this affect the electricity bill?
Okay, so I think the easiest way of explaining it is like in 100 kilometers. So what is 100 kilometers of charge going to cost me? So roughly it depends on your municipality, very good point. It could be anywhere from 80 cents up to 2 Rand a kilowatt hour. So to charge 100 kilometers will cost you around about 38 Rand. To put that in perspective, if you had to charge it at a fast charger, that's about 84 Rand roughly for Jaguar owners. So Jaguar owners on the Powerway gets a 25% discount as well. So it's about 85. If you had to fill up a car, petrol, diesel, depending on the make, that could be anywhere between 130 to 174 Rand for 100 kilometers. So a rule of thumb, it's about a third of the cost of an ICE, internal combustion engine. So it's about a third. Sure. The other thing that we have to keep in mind is think of your electric car almost in the same way as you think of your cell phone. You don't let your phone run completely empty. Most probably when you go to bed at night, the last thing you do is you plug in your phone, it charges overnight. So that's when electricity is at its cheapest, so off-peak between 8 and 5 in the morning. So That's the best time to charge while you sleep, so it's not an inconvenience. It's the cheapest time to charge. So that is kind of the pricing range you're looking at.
And just the other day when I was doing an update on my computer, I remember it said something about the battery, like any consumable product decays. And a question here has just popped up about batteries decaying with the Jaguar I-Pace. What does that look like with related to maintenance on the vehicle? Does Jaguar provide any warranties or guarantees on the batteries? I mean, batteries seem to be one of the most inconvenient things in today's age. You've got your Apple Watch or smartwatches to charge, cell phones to charge, headphones like the AirPods, laptops, and now suddenly a vehicle. Obviously batteries being a consumable, what does that look like for the I-Pace?
So yes, over time batteries will decay, and it's the same in the vehicle. Unlike an appliance, we've got a very sophisticated battery management system that manages the charge to optimize the life of the vehicle. So it's not gonna decay at the rate a cell phone, or even the most modern smartphones decay at quite a significant rate. So we've got a 8-year, 160,000 kilometer warranty on our batteries, and that warranty says at that point, 8 years, 160,000 kilometers, the battery would still be sufficient for 70% state of health. So yes, it will decline over time, but it will not be worse than that point in 8 years or 160,000 kilometers.
For sure. And if we just look at electric vehicles becoming more of the norm, and ideally sooner than later, just from your personal, I guess, opinion, how long do you think this is going to take before electric vehicles are the norm to be in the garage rather than an internal combustion engine and us, as you say?
I think there's a lot of misconception about electric vehicles. One of them is the like you mentioned, the range anxiety. So I think a lot of people still think of it's trying to convert their way of living with an electric vehicle to a petrol car. So a petrol car, you fill up, you drive it empty. You fill up, you drive it empty. Where electric car, you kind of, if you get into that behavior of you just keep on topping it up, you just keep it at 80%. It's a very convenient way of traveling. It's a convenient way of living. Also, I don't think people really understand the performance of electric vehicles. Again, we're not talking about a few years ago where it was just a little city runabout that was the size of a golf cart. The performance in an I-Pace is blistering, 0 to 104.8 seconds. So that's our F-type sports car territory of 0 to 100. Also, the performance it's driven by a torque line, not a torque curve. So I think the more people experience the car, the performance, that's one thing. The other point is if you start understanding kind of the behavior about charging, and that range isn't really that a significant part of your decision. I think all of that would really impact decisions on buying electric vehicles.
Just to take a couple of steps back, I mean, if we just list out the brands that I'm aware of the top of my head in South Africa that have done something with electric vehicles, it would be Volkswagen, Toyota, Nissan, yourselves, Jaguar, Mercedes is coming out with something soon. I know Audi's coming out with something soon, and then Porsche has obviously just come out with the Taycan. I pretty much listed that from the lower range vehicles and pricing wise to more the expensive vehicles. This question is twofold. The first is the accessibility to electric vehicles. I know Jaguar's I-Pace is a little bit higher up in the market with the pricing. Is there any discussions potentially around the Jaguar coming out with a more affordable option, something in a lower price bracket than the current price of an I-Pace?
So Jaguar Land Rover is committed to electrification in our lineup. So right now we've got the only full electric vehicle in our lineup is the I-Pace. But if you look at the Land Rover range and the Jaguar range, quite recently we introduced the plug-in hybrids. So it's not full electric, but it's a combination between an ICE and a battery. So there we have products from E-Pace, Discovery Sport, Evoque, all the way up to Range Rover and Range Rover Sport when it comes to hybrid. You will see continuous line improvements and additions to the Jaguar range. We can't divulge the whole plan right now, but there's definitely more products coming on full electric.
And what is Jaguar doing to incentivize people to rather go electric in the country? I mean, it seems like you guys are leading in the field at the moment, especially with the power station that you got, the power stations that you guys have installed. Just quick reminder to everyone: there's a cool Jaguar hamper giveaway if you guess the amount of power stations correctly. Guys, I don't see the correct answer on here just yet. I was privileged enough to be given the answer before the show. So go and Google it if you've got a gap there. We had some people that were really close to the answer, but we have to choose one winner by the end of the call. But just coming back to what I was saying a moment ago around the vehicles and the incentive Jaguar is giving, how are you making this more accessible? Is there anything that you guys do that's just a little bit different? So if someone walks into your branch looking for example, the F-Type, do you try and navigate people towards the I-Pace instead and just say, have you considered going electric, or are you incentivizing them with, for example, like an advanced driving course, or I don't know, something that's just a little bit above and beyond the norm of a car sale, I guess? So anything like that available?
So I think it's important to note that, we always try to give the correct car for a customer. So we really go into their lifestyle, understand what their needs are, what they require out of a vehicle. So that's always kind of our starting point. If we're looking at their needs, we find out that, electric vehicle does fit their needs. This is kind of their daily commute, the kind of vehicle they're looking for, if it's style, if it's performance, if it's luxury. An I-Pace is definitely always on the list that we propose to them. What we do offer is, with the investment we've made in the Powerway, is if you buy a Jaguar, or a Land Rover, you get access to a Powerway charging card, so the process of charging vehicle, and there is a 25% discount when it comes to charging at public charging points on the Powerway. So there is an incentive when it comes to public charging. Obviously, this is a brand new technology, and you would see this with all the other manufacturers, that it is a bit more expensive introducing an electric vehicle than it is a normal ICE. So we try our best to make it as competitive as possible. But if you compare it against other vehicles with similar performance, it's actually quite comparable.
For sure. I'm going to just bring up take this conversation in another direction. I had a question pop up from Damien Sweet. What about the safety in an accident? What about the battery burning? I remember not so long ago, Richard Hammond from Top Gear, now on an Amazon Prime show, he wrote off a Rimac, if I'm not mistaken. It blew up the vehicle, totally combusted. What does that look like? Because I know electricity and water don't mix, and someone was asking me about electric vehicles the other day, and if you had to have a crash, say hypothetically into a fire hydrant or something silly like that, what are those safety precautions looking like, especially related with the issue around lithium, exploding? We pretty much have lithium batteries in our phones. We saw problems that Samsung incurred not so long ago. Is this a concern that people should be worried about?
I think starting out, it's still a vehicle. So the I-Pace has got an NCAP 5-star rating. So it's the same NCAP rating. It goes through the same crash testing as any other vehicle. So as a vehicle, it is safe compared to any other vehicle that gets taken through the NCAP testing. Also, there's a very sophisticated battery management system we mentioned earlier, but that's also for safety. So from charging, it regulates the heat of the battery, and also if there's anything that is out of the norm. So if it gets interrupted, say it's in an accident, it does manage the system. There is also, the cells are cased in secure casing. Again, it's very low to the ground, so it helps. There's a lot of body around the vehicle to protect it, but then it's put in a security casing. Then also the cells are isolated. So if there is damage, the system will shut down and protect it. Obviously, every accident is different. You can't predict the angles and what happens to the vehicle, but a lot of work has gone into safety. Again, this is just like any other vehicle that needs to pass crash testing. It needs to pass not just South African standards. It needs to pass European, US, Chinese standards. So it is in line with any other vehicle when it comes to safety.
For sure. Thank you for answering that. Just to remind everyone, Jaguar is giving away a hamper of amazing merchandise. It includes a travel mug, T-shirts, and whatever else can fit in the box. We're going to be selecting one winner at the end of the call from the comments section if you guess the number of power stations Jaguar has installed around the country. I know you can find that answer on their website, which is quite cool. I want to actually just bring up one more thing. I don't think I brought this up with you at all previously, which was we spoke not so long ago on one of these tech talks about our digital identity and how we leave a footprint behind with the devices that we connected to, being smartwatches, cell phones, etc. Is the vehicle now becoming another one of those things? Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere that you can do firmware updates on the Jaguar. So Jaguar will release new software. I think you connect your vehicle to your Wi-Fi at home. I could be wrong. And then there's a firmware update. Does that mean now the vehicle is also now picking up on your trends and the data is being collected on that? Is there a digital footprint around vehicles as well we should all be aware of?
So software over the air is a new technology that's also coming into a lot of the Jaguar products. Like I said, the great thing about that is your Jaguar in 5 years' time will not be the same one you bought today, because the software will keep on updating. Your range would actually, there's a good chance that your range can improve with the battery management system being updated consistently. New technologies, new apps gets integrated into what we call our Pivi Pro system. So there's a lot of tech and data that's flowing between. Also, we've integrated data. So when you're in an accident, the vehicle will phone emergency services, picking up that there's been an impact. It'll put you, if you do not respond, the emergency service would be dispatched. So yes, there's a lot of data going back and forth between the vehicle and external sources. However, there is a lot of security around data privacy. I cannot pull the information of a customer in South Africa. It's all securely housed. We can find out the exact protocols that's being used, but although there's data moving back and forth, it's not open. We can't see it. We can't even identify trends in South Africa because we don't have access to that personal information.
Okay, dead right. So just in the background, our director of chaos has joined the stream. I've got a funny feeling that he's only joined this for a reason of he's got a question that he would like to ask. He's never done this to me before in one of these tech talks, but I think in a moment I want to give him an opportunity to join the call and ask the questions that he might have, maybe just one or two, and let's look at wrapping up. Just to remind anyone that's just joined in, Jaguar is giving away some merchandise. If you can guess how many power stations have been installed by Jaguar, I see we've got a whole bunch of answers, everything from as low as 20 odd up to 50 odd, 90, 100 odd. I'm going to allow for you to give that final announcement as to what the right answer is right at the end of the call. In the meantime, I want to see if Matt would like to come in and ask any questions. I might be making a total mistake here. I'm not sure why he's here, but let's see what he's got to say. If there's any other questions that need to come up in the comment section, this is your last chance to ask Janiko from Jaguar anything about the I-Pace or electric vehicles. Let's see if Matt's here at all. Matt, are you there? I see you've got yourself muted. Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you guys?
Good.
Very
How are you,
much.
Matt?
Thoroughly enjoying thoroughly enjoying the talk, I must be honest. I had a bit of understanding as to what was going on all around EV, and I've got my mom and folks in the other room having a listen. So thank you for sharing your insights, Yannick. I've roped the family in. It's been exceptionally interesting for us. Just thinking about Thought Africa and the kind of acknowledgement we'd like to give to the people doing such good work. It's awesome to see how many people are trying to venture on a path of goodness, of doing better, and having someone like you represent your business and your company, as well as the car that you guys have been talking about tonight, has been phenomenal. We have this saying in office that it's called opportune tactic, and having the opportunity. I snuck a question in there just a moment ago about offering test drives. For those that are curious to know, is there an opportunity for people to just rock up at a testing station or at any of your dealerships and offer a test drive? Do you guys do any sorts of sprees around cities or areas nearby?
So we've got a test fleet with retailers around South Africa. So, setting up a meeting with the retailer and to arrange a test drive. So that's possible. We've also got the Brand Experience Center up in Joburg. That is a very dynamic experience. If you're ever in Joburg, go to Colonial Jaguar Experience, Land Rover Experience, where it's a safe environment. There's a dynamic track, there's a skid pan, everything where you can safely test the limits of the car. So yes, there's definitely opportunity to drive the vehicle.
Awesome. I actually wanted to put this out there, Joel. Often you're the chaos in what's going on, but I wanted to put an offer out there to everyone that's watching. If you get the chance to get inside one of the iPans or go for a test drive, do us a favor and take a photo and tag at Thought Africa. We'd love to send you a Thinker shirt, just to acknowledge the great work that everyone is doing on your side of the world, Janico. So I just wanted to offer my 2 cents there, and hopefully you have a few guests that are giving them a drive.
100%. Thanks for joining, Matt.
Thank you very much.
So it looks like we're going to be wrapping up the last of this call. We're going to have to choose a winner now. I'm not sure if you can see the comment section on your back end there or not at all. But is it time that you are going to be sharing how many power stations Jaguar has installed around the country?
Okay, so the Powerway is one of our kind of the elements of launching electrification that we're most proud of. So we spent over 30 million Rand in setting this up. You can drive from Cape Town to Polokwane, from Cape Town to East London, from Joburg to Durban, from Pretoria to Nelspruit, all along the national routes. And we've got charges at dealerships. We've got charges along the highway. We've got charges at big malls in residential areas. And the answer is 82. We've got 82 charges, and that's a combination between AC charges and DC charges.
100%. So I see we got a few people that have actually given the answer 82. I think what would be probably fair is to give it to the person that answered that question first, right? I mean, do you agree with that? Can we give it to the person who got the question right the first time around?
Excellent.
So to announce the winner of the merchandise, give me a second. I'm scrolling through all of this. Vanessa Crichton. By the way, you've won yourself some Jaguar merchandise. Congratulations on getting the answer right and going and Googling it. Really, really cool that you've won that. Please drop us a DM at Thought Africa. We'll be sure to get in touch. We'll connect you with Yannico and make sure that package gets delivered to you. Yannico, thank you so much for joining this call tonight on the Tech Tuesday. If I may ask if anyone else has got any other questions, or if you would like to just quickly slip in a last thought before we end this call. If you've got anything to share or anyone want to drop a quick question there of something that you feel we haven't quite addressed around EVs. From my point of view, in short, it seems like EV technology in South Africa, if anyone was going to be buying into one now, you would be an early adopter. This is something really new at the moment. So it's exciting to see if we can get more and more people looking at it. From my point of view, I think I'm not even going to ask this question. It's a rhetorical one, but it's how do we make kids more conscious that their parents need to be in electric vehicles? I know that some parents, they are buying electric vehicles, or they're spending the money equivalent to what the electric vehicle could cost. Let's try and get that kind of education out there. Let's encourage schools to be teaching it. I know Jaguar once did a Jaguar Car Schools Challenge back in 2015 or 2016, We're surely going to be in touch with you guys, Matt and I, with some sort of a challenge. I think we would love to be able to put out, being a tech and sustainable living company. We're going to be in touch to see if we can make something happen. Yeah. Any other last remarks?
I think there's a combination. For me, what's exciting about electric vehicles is it caters for different needs. There's the zero emissions, there's the quietness of the drive, there's the performance. That's the thing that grabbed me the first time I experienced the vehicle. And also there's a lot of science and interest that goes into a vehicle, converting kinetic energy to back into electricity with the regenerative braking. So I think from just the interest in something different, electric vehicles offers a lot. But then also, what is important? Is it the performance? Is it the luxury of our brand? Is it the low CO2 or quietness of the vehicle? It really does offer something for everyone, depending on what your needs are.
Okay, amazing. I'm super excited to see the future of electric vehicles in South Africa. I'm sure everyone is here as well. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge around it. And we'll have to be in touch really soon to get that prize out. Thank you for availing your time and really appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoyed being here.
Cheers. Matthew, I'm going to be bringing you back onto this call. We need to come up with an idea to make electric vehicles and the technology more accessible to kids, where they're being educated about it. I know more recently we did start playing with the idea of putting an electric vehicles course online, where we did some coding, some augmented reality, looking at getting kids to design their own electric vehicles. So you think we should give that some attention?
I definitely think so. Just as a final remark, to continue learning, that last question you had there, especially from kids that perhaps are interested now, or kids, I refer to parents and moms and dads that are learning more about this as well. The Thought Africa Thinkers platform is a great opportunity for people to learn more about what electric vehicles do, what they're capable of. We have guest speakers like Yannico, potentially back to Porsche, and a few other people that are doing some just really cool things in the industry, sustainable living and tech, that will be sharing their knowledge and content through the platform. A couple of weeks ago, we had shared our Thinkers Bot number. I don't know if we were able to get a ticker across, Joel, but for those who are quite literally sitting from the courtesy of your couch, you're able to just play around on that WhatsApp chatbot number and find your way to the Thinkers platform. We do have a few things for you to have a look at there and a couple of courses lined up. But other than that, you could also look online. I'm sure we'll be releasing a few more details in the next few days for you to continue learning about electric vehicles and a few other things. There it is there, 084 222 6924.
Yeah, I think we need to take on the obligation here of actually making sure that we've got some more information on electric vehicles on the WhatsApp chatbot, just to be able to educate kids. That's how we create the accessibility behind it. But then also just show some of our thinkers from more the underprivileged spaces that this is a vehicle that they're going to be driving in the next 10 to 15 years. And one of the people we work really closely with is Karen Wallstra. I see she was on this chat tonight. She spoke about the opportune tactic to us, and we had seen how some parents would, like, for example, threaten kids and say, I'm going to take you to that area, and it's essentially like you'll land up like that if you don't study or do your marks, and that's more of a scare tactic. We've flipped that around, correct me if I'm wrong, where it was, how do we get kids into a space and out of that? So, and for small things, like you'd said, even go to like an art museum or go check out a hike in Cape Town, just do something so simple. I think we need to take that on.
That's bang on the money. Not to hijack what you just said, but echoing more so the opportunity we've spent on the ground with our thinkers over the last few weeks, and chatting to what kids between the ages of 7 to 17 wish to be when they're older, when they're grown up, or even parents that are looking to make a pivotal life change of sorts. A goal for us, I think everyone's big into milestones and goals, is to be driven by a likes of a Jaguar or a likes of a someone else that is an electric vehicle, and show a thinker what the other side might look like. So appropriately, I suppose, worded opportune tactic. I definitely think we would take Yannico up there, but more so like the people that have joined this call this evening to go out there, to sit in the seats of what it's like to be in one of those cars, and tag us. We want to see what you're up to, and we'll happily share it on our stories as well, just spreading the message of everyone that's doing good.
For sure.
Yeah.
Matt, thank you for joining in on this call. Out of the blue, really appreciate it. I'm going to say goodbye to you, wrap up this evening, and I'll see you 7:30 tomorrow morning.
See you at 8.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
So that was a really, really informative Tech Tuesday. Thank you so much to Jaguar for agreeing, lastminute.com, to being on this call. Thank you, Yannico, for spending the evening with us. Learned a lot from this. You'll be able to find this obviously on the Facebook page of Raylan Preparatory, as well as Thought Africa, as well as the YouTube channel of Raylan Preparatory. And yeah, tonight was really fun. We've got a whole bunch of these tech talks lined up for the future. Everything from living in space as an option, looking at food technology, and a bunch of other things with the future of tech. I am going to say thank you very much for joining this evening. Really, really appreciate it. Go and try out the Jaguar I-Pace. It's a really, really cool car. I've sat in it before. I know that, if I'm not mistaken, one of our colleagues has also been in a test drive and around the track at Kailami. So I'm well aware that it's an amazing, amazing vehicle. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to say goodbye and good night. Be safe, everyone. And thank you very much for tuning in. Cheers, cheers.